Celeste Mendez never contemplated murder before. Sure, in passing moments of frustration, she had made remarks about it, but those were just fleeting thoughts, until now. For hours, she studied a document, focusing on one line, the signature. She took a deep breath and placed a black bag on her bed, carefully arranging a pair of black gloves, ensuring everything was ready for the job. Meanwhile, Paul Langston stood before a jury, delivering his closing argument. Today's trial. A corrupt police officer accused of killing an unarmed black teenager. The officer had confessed to Paul in private, but morality didn't pay the bills. Paul had a job to do, and he did it well. Paul was too arrogant to answer the phone regarding the verdict, preferring instead to hear the news anchor deliver the results to the world. Not guilty. Success always made him think of shopping. A few days later, he bumped into Celeste. There was something familiar about her. After a brief conversation, he arrogantly pulled out his phone, expecting Celeste to give him her number without hesitation. As he typed, she watched him closely, knowing that in a few days his life would end the right way. A few nights later, the two sat drinking into the evening. Celeste told Paul she was honored that he had invited her to his home. At one point, Paul leaned in and smirked, saying he had something special for her in the bedroom. He excused himself, disappearing down the hall. That was her moment. Celeste quickly reached for his glass and poured the succinyl choline. She wanted him dead, badly, but in her eagerness, she poured too much. Minutes later, she handed him another drink. At first, his body leaned back as they laughed together. Then, his muscles twitched. His body jerked forward, then back. He managed to sit upright, but his limbs trembled, betraying him. His mind was shutting down. She leaned in, her voice calm but cutting. "Do you remember me?" He could still hear every word, but his mind was closing in. His pulse quickened. She told him he had ruined her life 8 years ago. She had hired him to prove her innocence in a murder case she hadn't committed. But instead of defending her, he had sacrificed her to protect the real killer. She lost everything, forced into hiding, abandoned by everyone. Now it was his turn. Paul stiffened, his muscles locked. The realization hit too late. As Celeste forged suicide note, she thought weeks of studying his signature had paid off. The police wouldn't hesitate. Paul Langston, overwhelmed by guilt from defending the guilty, had taken his own life. There would be no trace of her. As she stepped out onto the city streets, blending into the night, she thought to herself, justice comes in many forms. Some, however, have deadly consequences.